Welcome everyone to our 2026 Dam Safety Flood Prevention, Protection, and Assistance Fund grant training. We will be recording this meeting as well as sharing the slides with everyone. Here is our training agenda today. We'll have an introduction by our Chief Engineer, Andrea Henry, a program overview by myself, Jake Shaw, the grants manager, and then a discussion of the project types and low hazard dam requirements by Andrea, and then some questions along with instructions on the DSIS system, and then some information about grant awards and reimbursement processes, and then a final closeout and contact information sharing. So with that, I will hand it over to Andrea for some opening remarks.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I just want to thank you for attending today. We are a group of about 15 people here in the dam safety program, and that includes engineers, compliance officers, data managers, attorneys. We do a lot. And we currently have 5 regional engineers, which if you've worked with us before, these are probably the folks that you most closely work with. But we are not only in the business of performing as a regulatory agency, but we are also trying to build a top-notch dam safety program for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And that includes you guys. It includes all of the professional engineers in the state that work on our dams. And we also mean to be a support system to you to bring your dams into compliance. So that means many things. That means that we can provide guidance on when and how to do things with your dam. We can meet with you on site to discuss the performance of your dam. We meet with HOAs all the time around kitchen tables. It is not an expectation that a dam owner is necessarily a dam safety expert. And so that's where we try to help fill in some of those data gaps for you. We also try to support our dam safety program with funding for dam owners. We've been very privileged to offer state-funded grants for many years now. This year, we're able to offer $5 million in grant funding as we were last year, and we just hope to be able to continue that in the future. Additionally, we distribute and manage federal funds when they're available that can go directly to dam owners. And we work with municipalities and NGOs to identify funding as well that can go to dam owners. But today we're going to talk about our state dam safety grant that just opened up. I'll hand it back to you.
Sure. Yep. So as I said, my name is Jake Shaw. I'm the grants manager for the division, so I oversee the dam safety grant program along with some of our other grants and our federal grant programs. I'm accompanied by my team, which includes Scott Peterson, our grant support specialist, and Amanda Conrad, same title, and Kevin Dotton, another support specialist on our team. So some housekeeping. As I said earlier, the presentation slides will be on the website, and there will be a recording available for viewing. Questions can be typed into the chat window, which will be monitored, and we'll do our best to answer all questions during the presentation and at the designated Q&A breaks. And we will invite attendees to speak at the end of the training. For any unanswered questions or discussion, please remain on the line afterwards, and we can discuss them then. So I will give a brief overview of the program in general. So as Andrea said, we have $5 million available this year over 2 categories. We have up to $1 million available for dams of regulatory size, including private or locally owned government dams for project type 1, which is engineering studies, along with unknown hazard dams will receive priority funding for this category. And then we have an additional $4 million available for project type 2, which includes design, repair, removal, and safety modification. And for these high hazard dams and decommissioning projects will receive priority funding. So this year, there have been some updates to the 2026 grant manual. The major one is that grant matches have been lowered for dam owners, which is great news, between 10 and 30%. match requirements based on the project type. The projects have been reduced to two categories, as I mentioned earlier, to reflect these match options. Type 1 engineering studies have a 10% match or a $5,000 minimum. And type 2 projects for design and construction have a 30% match, and the cap depends on the hazard class and owner type. This year, dams under formal administrative enforcement action are ineligible for the grant program, and we're happy to answer questions about that. And dam owners ultimately claiming size exempt status are not eligible for grants in this program. Some definitions that are relevant for the program: a local government or locality means any county, city, town, municipal corporation, authority, district, commission, or political subdivision created by the General Assembly or pursuant to the Constitution or laws of the Commonwealth, or any combination of two or more of these entities. Private entities mean dam owners, whether individuals, partnerships, corporations, or other non-governmental entities. This additionally includes, but is not limited to, homeowners associations, planned unit developments as defined in the Code of Virginia, and common interest communities as defined in the code as well. Routine maintenance means activities regularly performed to prevent deterioration of the dam and structures. These activities include mowing, removal of immature woody vegetation such as saplings and bushes, reseeding grass patches that have minor erosion, and conducting minor repairs of concrete structures. If these activities are not conducted regularly, the safety and structural integrity of the dams or its structures may be compromised. In those instances, an alteration permit may be required prior to the maintenance activity being conducted. So here is the section from the Dam Safety Act that has been updated to reflect the new match requirements. You'll see in the language here that in the section G, any grants made from the fund pursuant to clause I of subsection C above shall require a 30% project match by the applicant. Any loans made from the fund for such activities or for engineering requirements needed to complete such activities included in clause I of subsection C shall require a minimum of a 10% project match by the applicant. Subsequently, any grants made from the fund pursuant to clause 2 of subsection C shall require no more than a 10% match by the applicant, except that the applicant should provide a minimum of $5,000 of the cost of the project if funded. The match provided by the applicant may be used to pay the application fees for the necessary impounding structure, operation, and general permit pursuant to the code or maintenance certificate. Projects must have commenced on or after July 1st, 2025, and then no later than 2 years after an executed agreement, up to 3 years maximum with an approved extension. Grant funds will be dispersed on a reimbursement basis and only after the completion of the approved project. So here we have a timeline of the grant, 2026 grant as we see it. So applications opened on December 31st, 2025. The grant manual was posted on the website and DSIS was opened for application receipt. Applications will be due by 4 p.m. on March 31st, 2026. Following the close of the application period, we will have about a month or so of internal reviews by our dam safety regional engineers before it goes to the Soil and Water Conservation Board meeting, where awards will be approved for announcement. Following that Soil and Water Conservation Board meeting in the spring, awards will be announced in the summer of 2026. We will announce via award letters from DCR, and those award letters will be followed by formal grant agreements from the Virginia Resource Authorities in the weeks to follow. Once those grant agreements have been signed, your period of performance will officially begin and your 2-year period will commence. This will put the deadline for extension requests as the winter of 2028. We request that extensions be submitted 120 days prior to the end of the grant agreement. And then December of 2028 would be the end of the period of performance, or the summer of 2028 would be the end of the period of performance, as that would be 24 months after the execution of the grant agreement. Additionally, reimbursement requests must be submitted within 90 days following the project completion date. And here's a brief overview of some of the eligibility requirements for both types. So for both projects types 1 and 2, multiple separate applications may be submitted for different activities or different dams. for both projects type 1 and 2 prior to the grant application deadline. A regular conditional operation and maintenance certificate application and associated fee must be submitted to DCR. But then for project type 2 in specific, a current professional engineer's inspection must be on file with DCR at the time of the grant application submittal. And additionally, the grantee must have submitted an inundation study, including hazard classification DCR, by the grant application deadline. We note that dam removal projects may propose a design build approach and be exempt from the requirements to have submitted plans and specifications and a hazard classification on file with DCR by the time of application. And with that, I will hand it back to Andrea to go over some of the specifics of the project types.
Excellent. So if you guys have submitted grants before or are familiar with the program, it is a bit simpler this year in that we have moved from 3 project types to 2. So the first one I'll talk about is our type 1, which is engineering studies. This is an umbrella term for work that you're going to need to do to bring your dam into compliance that doesn't include actual construction or the development of final plans and specifications for construction. So there is a lot that could be eligible under this project type. The most typical things that we have seen in the past are your inspections, your emergency action plans, your dam break inundation zone analysis and mapping. However, you may also need a subsurface investigation, geotechnical investigation. You may know that you need alterations to your dam, but you want to do some preliminary engineering to get some preliminary cost estimates and alternatives for how to move forward. This is not the development of final plans, but it's really to help you cost out what's going to be required for your dam. So any of these are eligible activities. What is different this year that was not in the past. So yes, we have lowered the match requirement, which is great, but we now have this minimum of $5,000. Unfortunately, because you have to submit all of your projects separately. So for instance, if you wanted an emergency action plan and a dam break inundation zone analysis, those are separate submittals. It means that some of the smaller items that you could receive grant funding for, like an inspection in previous years, isn't really going to work for you this year because most professional engineer inspections are just a basic inspection is under the $5,000 minimum. Unfortunately, we do not have, this was a legislative change. It's written into law. We do not have the ability internally to override this requirement. But here's what I'll say. If you're a dam owner that is starting from the beginning, meaning you don't really have anything on file with us, it is very likely that you will need an inspection and a dam break inundation zone study. Instead of filing 2 separate applications, perhaps that inspection is just a cost item in your dam break inundation study as a tool that is necessary to do the study. Now, you may choose to submit that engineering inspection to us as part of your compliance requirements, but it is not a separate project. This is going to be our workaround. So think about if you do need multiple things, how you could write your grant application to have one submittal that maybe has multiple compliance items in it, especially that inspection is important for most of the things that you're going to be developing for us. Knowing the condition of the dam is pretty important. So I will leave that as it is to you and your engineer to get creative in determining how to apply, given that we do have separate grant applications per project type. But that language, I think we're open to some interpretation there this year. Okay, so What's required for you to be able to apply for this grant? To apply, nothing. You can be starting from scratch. I mean, you have to be in our system as a regulated impoundment structure, but that's about it. There are some requirements for you to actually be reimbursed for the grant, and that is that you have to obtain a regular or conditional certificate before we're going to reimburse you. You don't have to do that at the time of the application. You can do that once work is done, but before you get reimbursed, you are going to need that. Do the next slide. Okay. Yeah, so these are some questions we've gotten in previous years. I want to make sure we have enough time for your actual questions. Okay, so if you go on our website, not only will you see the grant manual, which is very important for you to have, you're also going to see the list of our 2025 projects, and I believe years past as well. You're going to see the award amounts for each project. So if you have no idea what the cost should be for these things, I would say that's a pretty good reference. In previous years, the match was 50%. So the grant you're going to see is 50% of the total cost. And I believe we had inspections, EAPs, inundation studies, all kinds of things last year. So you should be able to find an example. Okay. Yeah, this is one we receive a lot in some sort of form. After a PE inspection, could our dam be reclassified as low risk? We have two different ways of looking at the dam. One is assessing its physical condition. That's what's going to be done with an inspection. One is assessing the risk if it were to break, not the probability of the break, but if it were to breach. And that happens only with an inundation study, where you're looking at where the water goes when it breaches and what's going to flood. So the two things are not related. Your hazard class is your hazard class. It's based on the inundation study that you develop, and the inspection rating is completely determined by the physical condition of the dam. So if you don't know the hazard classification for your dam, you are welcome to contact your regional engineer, contact me. We can provide a screening level assessment. This is not a regulatory assessment, so you still have to do the work. What it can do for you, though, is if we do the screening level assessment and it looks like you might have a low hazard dam, you might be eligible for a simplified study where you wouldn't with the others. So if you have no clue, it's worth looking into this to begin with. Okay, does an O&M certificate application require a PE signature? If you have a significant or high hazard dam, you need to be within the certificate program, and yes, a PE must sign and seal that application. If you have a low hazard dam, you are now in the general permit program, and you do not need a professional engineer to sign and seal that general permit statement. We do have a list of PE firms that have requested to be on our list, and we can provide that to you upon recommendation. Happy to do it. Okay. Is a DVIS study required for dams? Absolutely. We have to understand the hazard classification of the dam. We have several ways to do that. If you have a low hazard dam, you could get the simplified study that is available for a fee of $2,000. The special low hazard, or what we're calling low exempt hazard dams now, do not require an inundation study, but you do need a professional engineer to provide some sort of documentation that it is in fact low and exempt. This is a very special case for a dam. This is if you have a dam on your property, you're in a rural area, the dam breaches and it floods only your property before it is accepted into a big, say the James River, some big water body. You might be exempt because essentially the only person affected by the dam breaching is you. If you believe that is your case, please contact your regional engineer, contact me, and we will work with you to determine how you can move forward with compliance efforts. Okay, so this is a great question. So is a DBIS study required? Significant and high hazard, absolutely. Low hazard, it depends. But here's the thing that you should know, even if you have a low hazard dam. If you have an inundation study and inundation maps on file with us, and let's say you're a significant or low hazard dam, and a developer wants to build residential property or commercial development in your inundation zone, it could trigger a reclassification of your dam. So perhaps you go from a significant hazard to a high hazard. This is a big deal, and this can be a really big financial impact to you as a dam owner because you can have different requirements now for your spillway conveyance, which requires a big alteration to your dam. However, if you have this inundation study on file, this clause in our Dam Safety Act is triggered, which means the developer either has to figure out a way to not impact your hazard classification, or they have to contribute funding to provide the necessary upgrades to your dam. So that's another big reason to do the inundation study, to protect yourself from this type of situation, which is what we call hazard creep. Next slide. Okay, so that's it for type 1 projects. Type 2 projects are those where the outcome is going to be an alteration permit to DCR or construction is being done. Now, if you're starting at the beginning and you think you want to get the alteration permit and do construction within one grant term, those are two separate applications, with the exception of decommissioning a dam. For that, you can approach it as a design build and just have one application. So what I'll say for these two is that we're going to get into our scoring method in a few slides, but we have increased the scoring for our dam decommissioning projects to really make them a funding priority for this grant program. Okay, so for this one, because these projects tend to be much more expensive, we have $4 million available. Your maximum is 30%. There's no minimum here. But there is a cap. And I think that might be on a separate slide. Okay, so what do you need to have or to do to be eligible for the grant? Okay, you have to have a regular or conditional certificate. You have to have at least submitted the application and fee, or the general permit registration statement and fee prior to the application deadline. So it may not be approved yet. Don't worry about that. It must be submitted. You have to have a current inspection of the dam. Otherwise, you know, you're looking at, I don't know how you could put together a alteration package or a construction, a set of plans if you don't know the current condition of the dam. So I think we would view that as perhaps being an incomplete project. So that's also required. Again, it must be submitted. If it's not approved, that's not your worry, but it must be submitted by the application submittal. And again, you have to have an inundation study to know the hazard classification, to know what you need to do to alter the dam. This is not true for the dam decommissioning projects. If you are if you're submitting a construction grant, it is ideal that you already have an alteration permit application approved or submitted prior to the grant application deadline. It's not required though. However, you do need to have it to be reimbursed for either the even final design plans or if it's a a planning project, or you would need a record report if it's a construction project. That's how we signal that the project is complete. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is where we talk about, there's not a minimum match or a minimum amount that you have to provide for the type 2 grants, but we do have caps. Again, high hazard dams are given priority, dam decommissioning projects are given priority. So the only thing that's not eligible here is the deferred maintenance. So for example, we have a lot of dams that are covered in trees, and it is very costly to remove those trees. Additionally, if it's removing more than 1 or 2 trees, you have to get an alteration permit for us, because that's a significant earthwork project at that point. So those are not eligible. If it's because of deferred maintenance, those are not going to be eligible for this grant. Excuse me. Okay, caps for construction. So typically your alteration permits, your design costs are not going to meet this cap. This is construction. We have 2 different tiers, depending on if you're a municipality or a private owner. And then the cap is dependent on your hazard class. So if you have a high hazard dam and you're a private owner, your cap is $1 million. And then that goes all the way down to $125,000 cap if you have a low hazard dam and you're a municipality. I think, do we have questions here? Okay, eligible activities. So essentially it's, yeah, we still have the dam break and EAP on here. Okay, that's going to be a type 1 now. So if you go to, let's see, number 5 on eligible activities, that's essentially what you're looking at for this. Sorry, we need to revise this slide. Number 5 for the project type 2. So it's any alteration needed. We have mostly earth and embankments in the state of Virginia, and they're aging, and so there's just need for maintenance work sometimes that is due to age of the dam or components of the dam, and not due to deferred maintenance. That is certainly eligible for this grant. You may also need an alteration permit because you don't have the spillway conveyance requirement that you need for your dam. Your low-level drain, you might not have a low-level drain for the dam and want to retrofit the dam with one, as it's required for significant and high-hazard dams. So all of these projects are eligible. You can also apply for the installation of a remote monitoring system. That's a kind of a totally separate project, but if you're looking into that, you can also do that. And that, again, depending on what typically you do need alteration permits for these because you're burying some sort of line within the dam, but not always. So that's something to discuss with us to see what the requirement, you'll want to check with us to see what the requirement for reimbursement is for that type of project. Okay. And yeah, so you have to be under a certificate to be reimbursed. The deliverables must be approved. And so our way of verifying that the work has been done and it has been approved is, again, an alteration permit, an approved alteration permit for final design submittals, or a records report for final construction. And then you also have to have the engineering inspection on file, but you have to have that at the time of application. Okay. Okay, so I did throw this in here for low hazard dams because I wanted you to be aware that we have had changes in the program, and that can help you identify whether you want to apply for a grant or not. So the general permit requirements are a little different than the certificate requirements. There is an emergency preparedness plan that you have to develop. This is much simpler than the emergency action plan, and it does not require an engineer to fill out. As I spoke about before, you may not have to have inundation study and maps, but that is a protection for you. And it may be the only way that you can determine that you are actually a low hazard dam. Um, we don't require that you submit an operation and maintenance plan to us anymore if you have a low hazard dam. Additionally, we don't require that you submit a PE inspection to us unless it's the very first time that you have submitted a general permit. So if you have a general permit, if you keep it active and don't let it expire, you only need the one and then not again. We don't require that you submit owner inspections to us, although you need to be doing them. So if we had a concern about the dam, we may ask you for them. You don't have to submit them yearly. But you do have to keep your dam in satisfactory condition. Our spillway requirements, conveyance requirements for the dams have changed a bit for low hazard dams. So for those dams that, like I talked about before, are exempt, the flooding's only on your property, we do not have a requirement at all for spillway conveyance. For dams that may flood other properties, but that flooding does not include any critical infrastructure, the spillway conveyance requirement is now 50 years. And then for other low hazard dams that you may see water over a roadway or at a home, but it's not life-threatening depth or velocity of water, the requirement is still going to be 100 years. Okay. Okay. And if you're a low hazard dam owner and you want that inundation study, and I think you do, we do have a simplified program that we offer at a subsidized cost of $2,000. So you can email your regional engineer, you can email me, you can also email Aaron. His email is on this slide. And we will show you, we'll do a screening study for you to indicate whether we think you're actually going to be eligible or not. And then we can proceed with the simplified study. If the simplified study finds that you do have a low hazard dam, that's it. You're great. You just do all the things that you need to do as a low hazard dam owner. If we do the study and we determine that it's not low hazard, you still get the models and report to hand over to a consulting engineer to provide a more detailed study for that dam. So you don't get nothing, but you don't get everything. Okay. And then Jake, I think, is this you now?
Yeah, I can go over this.
Okay. All right.
Yep. So this is the application checklist, which just lists the primary components of the application you will submit as part of this program. They're all listed here. I'll run through them. You have your need for assistance narrative, the operation and maintenance certificate. The application appendix A is just the name we have for the actual components of the larger application, which are listed as subparts below. We have a scope of work narrative, scoring criteria, your risk reduction benefits expected, the goals and objectives of the project, and then your approach, milestones, deliverables, a maintenance plan, and alternatives. And additionally, there's a budget narrative required, which shows documentation that there's an authorization to request funding from the applying body. For non-locality applicants, we ask for a pledge, authorizing documentation from each contributing organization to ensure that everyone's on board with the project. And then additionally, we ask for a detailed budget and narrative of how funding is to be allocated. Finally, we do ask for proof or evidence of the ability to fund the total cost of the project prior to reimbursement. This can take a variety of forms, and I'm happy to discuss it. It can be, if you're a locality, it can be, just the pledge that, you have funds available through general funds or whatnot. Or if you're a private owner, if you have literally cash in hand, a line of credit, anything like that. So we're happy to discuss specifics individually. Of course, these are listed out in detail in the grant manual. Each specific form is addressed in the manual in detail, and we can review that as well. Here's the scoring criteria. Andrea, I don't know if you have details you want to highlight, given the new emphasis on decommissioning, but this is essentially it in a nutshell. We have all the questions here. Is the applicant a local government, homeowners association, private entity, and then that determines eligibility. Has any of this portion of the project been, funded in prior applications? As that is unallowable. Have you demonstrated your ability to provide the required matching funds? Has the applicant maintained proper certification during the past 12 months? And then hazard classification, number of residential units within the probable dam break inundation zone, the impact of public roadways, utilities, commercial structures, land use downstream within the likely dam break inundation zone, the public use of the impoundment created by the dam, if there is any, and then the actual project type you are applying for as listed here. And then that will sum to your total points, which will be used for the assessment and the competitive scoring of these grants. Yeah, that's that in a nutshell. And then
Yeah, I'll
next,
just say, sorry, definitely refer to the grant manual, because we did, so 1 through 9, still the same. 10 eligible projects changed just a little because we went from 3 project types to 2. The 2 main things you're going to want to look for are an alteration permit is not required for the construction grant. However, you do get additional scoring if you have an approved alteration permit. Also, the removal of the dam. So last year it was 30 points. This year it is 75 to be competitive with those construction projects that might be alteration projects and have approved alteration permits. Sorry to interrupt, Jake. That was it.
no worries. That was no worries. Okay, so next is our section on actually completing the application in DSIS. Unfortunately, our DSIS team could not join us today, but we can run through the slides just to give you an overview of how that works. There is an application access form you'll have to complete. This is what the application access form looks like. As you can see here, it asks for your name, street address, organization, state, zip code, all of that. If it's your new account, your modified account, re-enabling access, anything like that, your dams, or dams if you have multiple. Then we have the terms and conditions, and then applicant name and signature. Once that is completed, you can email it or mail it to dsis@dcr.virginia.gov or DCR's office at 600 East Main Street, 24th floor, Richmond, Virginia, 23219. So the dam safety inventory system enables users to access information about all dams in Virginia tracked by the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation. There are 2 levels of access that can be granted: participant access and read-only access. Participant access allows users to view, edit, upload, download, and enter information related to any requested dams when given consent by dam owner or owner's representative. Users can also apply for key regulatory documents online, as well as apply for and submit certificates, permits, emergency plans, and inspections, and users will have the capability to update contact information. For the read-only access, it allows users to view that information about individual dams, but obviously not edit it. Okay, so for the account user information, you first insert the primary account user's contact information, including their full name, street address, telephone number, and email address, and any additional comments you would like us to know. You check your access type, as I said earlier, if it's a new account, a modification of account, disable or re-enable, and then your role access, as I just covered, the read-only or the participant. Then you list your individual dams. You would list both the name and the inventory number. And then, if you need more space than's listed on here, you can attach a separate list. If you need access for a specific region, you can indicate that on the form. We have 5 regions, or you can also select all regions. Yeah, so it says here, no, participant access cannot be provided for entire regions. If requesting entire regions, read-only access can be provided. And then for the signature, this is for the dam owner use only. You check one box only for users' relation to the dam, whether you're the owner, the representative or consultant, or a public entity. For DSIS participant access, dam owner or owner representative name, signature, and date must be provided in this section. And then here we have, as I mentioned, the terms and conditions and disclaimers. We do ask you carefully read them before printing and sign the name at the bottom of the page. And again, after reading all disclaimers, you provide your signature at the bottom of page 2. And then, as I said earlier, you can either email or mail them at the 2 addresses listed below. So here we have the DCR's main page for DSIS information, the DCR access form, the user guide participants, and the workflow quick references can be found at the links here, which will be shared. And then here we have a more general DSIS application training, a DSIS web application overview, and DSIS grant application submittals. Again, so the DSIS website is listed here. This is the login screen. When you log in, you'll appear at the dam search grid. This is the read-only landing page. The dam search grid allows users to search and filter through all assigned dams, click on a dam to open its page, download a quick summary report for a dam by right-clicking on it. On the application search grid, the next tab over to the right, it allows participant and DCR staff users to search for all dam applications in process, with the statuses being admin review, submitted, or revisions needed for dams assigned to the user. You left-click on a dam application record to view the application, and when an application has been approved, it will no longer display on this grid. So here's some tab overview, color-coded. We have some basic information. So these green tabs are, descriptive information for dams, excuse me, including everything from technical basis to contacts. The yellow highlighted are for mapping. We have mapping services, including base maps, DCR layers, public layers, and map exports. And then the red highlighted tabs are regulatory applications, which are regulatory documents that can be viewed and submitted for DCR approval. That includes inundation PMP studies, emergency plans, inspections, certificates, permits, and grants. Here is the events tab. There's a snapshot of it. This includes things here like your emergency plan and certificate, expirations, and then upcoming inspections that might be scheduled. As it says here, it's automatic reminders of your expirations, a 150-day notice, a 90-day notice, and so on. And then here is the contact tab. The contact tab stores all contents associated with the dam. Participants can view, add, or edit contacts. You click on a contact record to view details. And the contact must have a valid email to receive system notifications and messages. Here are some instructions on how to add a contact. So you go to the contacts tab and then select the add contact or add new contact tab. Add contact allows users to select an existing contact and then add it to the specific dam. And then adding new contact allows users to create new contact records that are not already in the global DSIS contact list. Excuse me. So a primary contact is the primary individual that should be the first point of contact for dam inquiries. Contact types are owner, organization, or individual legally responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of the dam, or the owner representative, the authorized representative of the dam owner. Note that if an organization is included in the contact record, the organization is acknowledged as the owner. If there is no organization, the individual will be acknowledged as the owner. And that's when we move on to creating a grant application. So you go to your grants tab and then select add grant. This will allow you to set the grant type. For this training, you would do the Dam Safety, Floodplain, and Protection Assistance Fund. You would select your applicant type as either private entity, public entity, or some other, and then your project category, and then add grant. As you begin, you will start entering the new grant application fields. You'll see the required budget narrative, project type, project scope, total project cost, amount requested, and contacts. It is recommended to draft your application in a word processor so that you can save it and then paste the relevant sections into the online form so that you won't lose any work as you go. So each application must include a detailed budget and budget narrative explaining all proposed expenditures. The estimated total project costs and the amount requested must reflect the total cost of bringing the project to completion, as well as the amount requested from the fund. Estimates from all works to be completed by third parties, engineers, contractors, etc., on the specified project should be include a detailed breakdown of how this funding is proposed to be allocated between the applicant and the fund. At a minimum, the budget and budget narrative should include a breakdown of salaries, fringe benefits, travel, equipment, supplies, constructions, contracts, and other direct costs. Additionally, applicants must demonstrate the ability to fully fund the project to completion to qualify for matching fund. Here's the project type dropdown. A separate grant application must be submitted for each project, each of the funding categories you wish to apply for, excluding project type 3 projects, which that is now adjusted to type 2. Below, you'll see a list. This screenshot needs to be updated as now there are only 2 project types, not 3, but the essence is the same. You select which type applies to you. It will be broken out by these subtypes here. So it should be relatively similar and easy to follow. Additionally, you have to enter the total project cost and the total amount requested. It only accepts positive numbers, not dollar figures or commas, as thousand separators. Decimal cents are allowed. For contacts, to add a contact to the grant, they must already be added as a general contact to the dam through the main contacts tab, as we covered earlier. Multiple contacts are permitted, and contacts will receive grant status updates via email. For the project scope, all applicants must include a scope of work narrative that is an attachment to the application document. The scope of work narrative shall include a detailed description of the need for assistance and the work to be conducted to address that need. Identify risk reduction benefits to be achieved from the project goals and objectives, and approach and milestone and deliverables of the project, a maintenance plan, if applicable, and any alternative considered for each grant application. Here's a DSIS example. A professional civil engineer will perform a site inspection of the dam to assess its condition. Once the inspection has been completed, the professional engineer will complete the annual inspection report and a photo summary for dam owner review and signature. Once the dam owner has signed the inspection document, the engineering firm will submit the inspection package to DCR via the DSIS database. Next are the eligibility questions. Please fill out the section as pictured to continue applying. Here are the general eligibility questions. Has this been previously funded? Have you demonstrated your ability to provide match funds? Has the high hazard dam grant application maintained proper certification during the past 12 months or provided sufficient documentation? So on and so forth. Once you've completed that, you will receive this message saying you are eligible to apply for the dam safety grant. Would you like to proceed with the dam safety grant application? You can click continue application. If you click the red cancel application button, you will lose your work, so be careful there. And then next we have the scoring criteria questions. These are the same questions we covered earlier in the scoring checklist. So is there confirmed spillway deficiency? Yes, no. Number of residential units within the probable dam break inundation zone, the impact structure category, the zoning of the property located within the inundation zone, whether it be residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, other, or unknown. And continued, we asked what is the public use of the impoundment created by the dam. If there's no public access, public recreation, public water supply, or public and recreation, or public water supply only. Select add. Okay. Once you select add, the application is now saved in development status. It's basically a draft. By clicking back into it, you can review your application, make edits, and save as a draft again. To submit a final application, the status must be changed to submitted status by using the drop-down on the status option. Next is the Grant Attachments tab. The Attachments tab allows users to upload a more detailed grant application narrative and any supporting documents, including photos, invoices, proposals. So here's the an example of an attachment. The file naming schema uses the 6-digit DAM ID, the DAM grant title, and then the date of the submission upload. So standard document file types are accepted, including PDF and Word documents. Zips can be used to share folders if there is a group of several files. And then here are some final notes on submitting and how to contact DSIS. Once an application is saved as submitted, the participant user is no longer able to edit any fields or add attachments. Please be sure the application is complete with all relevant attachments before submitting. And then we do have a variety of contact means. So if you have any questions about, changing or adding anything to your grant and post submittal phase, please email the following email address, dam@dcr.virginia.gov. That is monitored by my team. So we have 4 people who have access to that email address. So it'll reach someone who can get it to the right person. And then for any technical assistance with DSIS, you can email dsis@dcr.virginia.gov. That'll put you in contact with Victor Thornton and Melissa Meierman, who are our main DSIS technicians. And then for any grant-related dam safety engineering questions, you can contact your regional engineers, which we can provide the contact information for. So the next section we're going to move on to is, in the post-award phase about grant awards and reimbursements. And with that, I will pass it over to my colleague, Scott Peterson, one of our grant support specialists.
Great, thanks, Jake. So yeah, as Jake said, this is after everything's complete, the good part, getting your money on a reimbursement basis for this grant. So we'll just walk through some of the documentation that you need to submit to us in order to get that process started. So next slide. Again, this is our team. We're now semi-filled with, we've been operating a couple people down, but we're relatively staffed up, so that helps us get through the processing of these reimbursement requests a little bit faster. Next slide. So these are the basics of this. We've been through this a little bit before, but just as a refresher, the period of performance on these grants is 24 months. If you do need an extension on that, please work with us. Let us know. You can always contact us before you formally fill one out, just to ask if you should fill one out or when you should fill one out. But you're eligible for a 12-month period of performance extension. And then again, just to reiterate, these are reimbursement-based grants, so the work needs to be performed and paid for in order to get reimbursed. And they should be submitted within 90 days of the authorized project completion date. Okay, so when you're ready to submit, there's a kind of a checklist of things that you should be, you need to submit. And again, if you have questions about this as you get closer towards the submission period, again, we're doing this training now, but the period of performance is 2 years. So, 2 years from now, if you don't remember this, that's all good. You can email us at the dam@dcr, dam@virginia.dcr.gov inbox and ask for a refresher. We can work through your documentation before you submit it, just to help you out and make it a little bit cleaner. But the basic list is a completed and signed Exhibit E reimbursement request form, signed Exhibit D form of requisition, and a certificate of the consulting engineer form signed also by the DCR engineer. So it needs 2 signatures on it. And these 3 first items are included in your, will be included in your award package. And then the next thing you'll need are the invoices associated with the project, and they should be detailed enough so that staff can kind of pick apart which line items are relevant to the project for which you're submitting reimbursement. And then you'll need proof of payment on those invoices. So this can take the form of canceled checks, redacted bank statements, or accounting system reports. Again, if you have questions about what qualifies as proof of payment, just send us an email and we'll work through it before you submit, and that usually makes things a little bit cleaner for us. And then the required components of proof of payment. Basically, we're just trying to close the loop between, did you pay for the billed work? So we want to see your information and who you paid, the payment posting date, so we know the actual like the check has cleared, or the transaction has cleared. We want a transaction or check number, and this is just to like ensure that uh, for lack of a better term, that people are not double dipping, submitting one payment that covers multiple invoices when in fact those invoices hadn't been paid. So we just want to make sure that the invoices are paid for, and then the amount, of course, and then optional. If you have a fairly complex billing, or it just doesn't seem very clean, you can provide a narrative for us, and then again, you can also contact us up front and kind of provide an explanation of why things may look askew, and we'll work through it with you guys. So our goal is to get everybody's money to them in a timely manner, but we're also trying to be good stewards of the Commonwealth's money. So we're applying scrutiny, but we're also trying to get the money out the door as quickly as we can. So next slide, please. So these are going to be some visual examples of what we're looking for in the reimbursement package. The first is Exhibit D. For DSFP grants, the requisition number is almost always going to be number 1, because these are reimbursable at the end of the project, one and done. You'll put a lot of this information is going to be pre-filled with your grant agreement, and then you'll put the reimbursement amount in that middle of the paragraph, in that blank space with the $sign leading. Then the certificate of the consulting engineer is one of the most important forms you'll submit. This is, we on the grants team are not technical experts, so this is the sign off from our engineering team that the work was done to spec. So this is why we want to have your engineer sign off on it, but we also need to see that our engineering team has signed off on it as well before we proceed with reimbursement. Of course, you'll need signatures and dates on all these forms. So next set, please. The final one is Exhibit E. A lot of this is duplicative information. If you have questions about this form, feel free to reach out. Some of these questions are not relevant to this program, so a lot of these we'll just have. Really the only the biggest purpose for this form is if for whatever reason your contact information has changed, or you want your check sent somewhere else, or your direct deposit sent somewhere else than was initially provided up front. This form will be a good indication of that fact. And if that is the case, please also just send us an email so that we're covering our bases and we're getting the reimbursement out to the correct place. And we'll work with VRA on the back end to ensure that you have the correct ACH form filled out to get the money deposited into the correct account. So next set, please. So some examples of detailed invoices. This one's from AMT. You can see it's got an invoice date and number. It's got a project, either number or description. The service is rendered. So these line items, as you can see, are all project type 1 type services, and then the billing amount for the period. So if you have generic line items, like a lot of times we'll see, in addition to what's here, we'll see kind of like meetings or like grant preparation services that can apply to, like, if you've got 3 grants, if you've got like an inspection, an EAP, and a DBIZ, and then you've got a line item that has meetings, but those meetings apply to those 3 things. Just try to like provide a narrative so you can, if we can appropriately split those meeting funds among the 3 projects you have. So again, just work with us, send us an email, and we'll work through it together. Jake, next slide, please. Proof of payment. This is usually the stickiest point. So this is a redacted bank statement. Again, it's got all the basic information. We want to see who's making the payment, who is the payment being made to, the posting date, the check number, and the amount. Just trying to close the loop on the fact that the services were paid for. Next, please. Again, this is an example of an accounting system report. It's got all those basic components, the payee name, the payer name, the amount, the check number, and the post date. Next one, please. This is a canceled check. And so it's got all those components as well. And I think the next slide demonstrates the difference between a canceled check and a copy of a check. With a copy of a check, we really don't know that it's posted. So, and I don't, I don't think anyone is doing this, but in theory, this check could be written, scanned, sent to us as proof of payment, and then never, never deposit or never sent to the person you're paying and never actually deposited. So we just want to ensure that the money is posted and the services are paid for. Next slide, please. So when you're ready to submit, the preferred method of submission is through our shared inbox, this dam@dcr.virginia.gov. That's going to be, A, it's going to get to us the fastest, and B, it's going to be all digital. We process everything digitally, so it'll be easier for us to process as well. If you need to, you can mail us documents. The address is there. It's listed in your grant agreement as well. Next slide.
Great. Thank you, Scott.
Yep.
So that was pretty much the gist of our presentation, but we do have some resources to go over with you all and some wrap-up comments. So we do have a list of all of our previous awards on our website with the link here. The website's even more up to date than this list here. We have 2024 awards and 2025 awards. You can find them there for reference. And as a reminder on the timeline, we're looking at applications closing on March 31st, then a Soil and Water Conservation Board meeting in the late spring to finalize award recommendations, and then hopefully award announcements in the early summer, followed by grant agreements in the early to midsummer as well, which would then initiate your period of performance of 2 years, putting you at an end date somewhere in the summer of 2028 with the option for the 1-year extension. With that, though, we're happy to take questions from the chat, from the audience. I know there's been a lot of questions in the chat that Andrea's been answering, but we're happy to continue that discussion. So yeah, the floor is open. Yes, David, is your hand raised?
Do we have to take them off mute, or
Let's
can they
see.
do that themselves?
I just did that. It should be
Oh,
the-
okay. Okay.
Let's see. So David, I've allowed your mic if you can unmute yourself. Okay, maybe move on to Mark and see if that works.
I just unmuted you.
This is a simple question. I'm part of a board, and I've been working with the board for the last 15 years. I've never really got involved in this part of, I've been an officer for our association. When I'm filling out that form, it says owner, like an association owns it. So do I put my name down for the owner? I'm just kind of confused on the form to get access to the DSIS system so I can see what documents we have.
Are you a board member?
I am.
Okay, yeah, if you can submit the form, and just if you have a website or something that shows that you're an officer, we can give you edit access to DSIS.
A website. We've got a Facebook page, but I don't know if I don't think we have anything official like that. I mean, I could talk to the president and he might better coordinate. I'm not sure.
Okay. We'll figure it out. Yeah, if you can just put your officer position, or we'll give you edit access.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
And thank you for the presentation. It was very informative.
Oh,
Greatly
good.
appreciate it.
Good. Okay, looks like we have one here. Is an alteration permit required to replace in kind a now defunct eye-flow gauge on a high hazard dam? Possibly, it depends on the amount of trenching and earthwork you have to do, more than anything else. Oop, sorry, I'm getting some backlash. So if you need to, most of these have some sort of underground line in place that goes to either a solar panel or something, it's connected to something. And in that case, we do want you to get an alteration permit because we want to know where the earthwork is and make sure you have a spec for compaction and seeding and seed and straw, or however you're going to sod, whatever you're going to do there. So I would say it depends. If you're just replacing the gauge and not the line, maybe you don't need one. But you can reach out to a regional engineer with more information if you're not sure.
I'm not sure if this question got answered, but it was one of the first ones about project type 1. The total pool of matching funds available is $1 million with no more than 10% project match by the applicant, or a minimum of 5,000, whichever is greater. Does the above statement mean that EAP update that costs 5,000 will not be eligible for a grant?
Right. So that's the concern with this new 5,000 minimum. So I would say if you know you need the EAP and you need the tabletop exercise, and perhaps to conduct that tabletop exercise, you also need to explain to everyone in the room the condition of the dam. So you need a PE inspection. Maybe that's all one submittal. But if you're just looking for the EAP and it's under $5,000, you're correct. It would not be eligible for the grant now. Okay, looks like if a project was awarded a spillway design / overtopping grant last year, will there be any issues applying for construction this year since both are considered type 2? No, not at all. Now, if you, well, okay, wait. I'm reading this as if the grant that was applied for last year was for design and for the alteration permit. And then this year it will be for construction. If that's the case, you're fine. Okay, perfect. So yes, you are eligible. And if you already have an approved alteration permit, that ranks you higher in the prioritization for grant awards.
Okay, we got another hand raised. I'm going to unmute Paul right now.
I think I just did.
Okay, great. And Paul will have to unmute himself as well.
Okay. Is there anybody else with a hand raised?
Got one more.
And if you're not having luck with your audio, you can always type it into the chat as well.
Okay, I'm gonna just allow Bill to unmute.
Okay.
Okay, everyone with their hand raised, I've allowed their mics to work, so you'll just need to come off mute on your end and feel free to ask.
Hey there, this is Ian Gordon with Timmons Group. So I just wanted to get a little bit of clarification. I was typing it out here in the comments, so I'll send it over afterwards, but just wanted to make sure it was identified. So for type 1 projects, it states we need a regular O&M certificate, or at least need to submit one. But typically, from kind of my experience with working with DCR, to get approval for the regular O&M, the dam needs to be in compliance with the other criteria. So is there, when we go through that application submittal, do we need to stick to the regular, or should it be a conditional? Just kind of want to clarify which one we'd upload.
Yeah, so for the type 1, it can be regular or conditional, and you actually don't have to have that until you're asking for reimbursement. So you don't
Okay.
even need it with the grant application. Yeah, for the type 2, you do.
Yeah. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Hello, it's Bill here.
Hi, Bill.
Hey, I assume that all the links that you have in the presentations are all going to be active when you send them to us. I was trying to, get to the various links while you were chatting, but it wasn't working. So can you just confirm that the links will be active
Yeah.
on the presentation? Okay,
We can
I
make
think
sure,
that'll
yeah.
answer a lot of the questions, because a lot of the questions I have are about what's relevant and what can be accessed and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And once even the name of our dam, I don't know what it is. I know there's 3 separate names that we're using. So that'll be helpful. All right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think they don't work when it's in presentation mode, but we'll double check before we send the slides out that they all are active.
I
Great,
also
thank you.
just put the manual and the landing page for the grant in the chat, those links in the chat. If you're not sure what the dam ID is, these slides will be online on that grant funding landing page that I just put in here. So you can ask your regional engineer. If you can just give them the nearest address, we can probably find the dam ID for you.
Okay. Paul, David, do you have any luck unmuting?
Another question in the chat is there a list of state-approved spillway repair companies?
Oh, sorry, I was just writing in there. We
Gotcha.
do have an Excel spreadsheet that we keep. It's totally voluntary on the firms that want to be on the list and contact information. This is not us making a recommendation of firms, but we do have a list of engineering firms we can provide you, and they should be able to direct you to contractors. Okay, I've got your email here, Mike, so I will send you that list. Okay, big changes. So the one we talked about the most was the grant matches. So in previous years, we had 3 project types. All of it was 50% match. Now we have 2 project types. The first project type is just the umbrella engineering studies that we can offer up to 90% on our end, 10% on your end, but there is a minimum of $5,000, which means you might need to get a little creative with your application. The type 2 is the final plans and specs or construction, and that we can provide a 30% or provide a 70% match. You provide 30, but it is capped depending on who owns the dam and the hazard classification. So those are the big ones, but ones that are also important to note, if you are under a formal enforcement process with us, you become ineligible for this program moving forward. Now, we are not waiting in the woods to say, gotcha, you're under formal enforcement. We try to work with you for an extended period of time to see progress being made prior to having any sort of enforcement action. So if you are making progress, if you are speaking with us and interacting with us, it's very unlikely that you're going to move towards formal enforcement. Those tend to be the dams that are in terrible condition and the owner is MIA, just non-responsive. Let's see.
There was a question in the separate Q&A kind of section rather than the chat from Paul.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It says, if we just recently purchased a property with a registered dam and have performed a camera inspection of the outfall pipe that shows small areas of dampness, nothing indicating a failure, would a structural lining of this pipe fall into the Type 2 grant?
Yeah, I mean, I would, okay. Let me look at this. Sorry, I'm gonna try to open the Q&A. That one open for me. So you have the camera inspection. Yes, so that would be a Type 2 grant, exactly. And if you can go ahead and line it and not have to replace, that's great. Sometimes if it's like the corrugated metal pipe, that's not possible to do the lining. Yeah, that would be Type 2. Okay, let's see, back to the chat. I think there was another one there. Okay, how much funding is available for each project type? So we have 1 million for the Type 1 grants, the engineering studies, and we have 4 million for the Type 2 grants, the final plans and construction. They are not formally divided or allocated for dependent on private and local government. We really rely on the scoring criteria that's in the manual and that we showed in the presentation for that. Okay. Anything else? And again, these are going to be on the website. Within the slides, you have the map of regional engineers, their contact information for them, for me. Please feel free to reach out to any of us with questions you have about the grant at any time. We are going to prioritize being responsive to those questions during the grant application period. So
yes. And after that, if you have any, as you're going through it, if you have any questions about process, more admin stuff, application submission, my team's more than happy to chat, hop on a phone call, answer emails, anything like that. So we're here to help.
Oh, okay, we got one more. For the current access road across the top of the dam is grass. And we would like to stabilize it with aggregate to prevent future erosion. Would this qualify as an activity? So I will say hire an engineer. It's often not, we don't suggest putting gravel on top of the dam. It can lead to erosion issues. But I would say hire an engineer to give you, you're going to need that anyway for an alteration permit and for your grant, and let them give you their best opinion on how to handle that stabilization. So, and if you do not have an engineer, I can also send you the engineering firm list if you give me an email. Okay, guys. I think we can wrap up here. Okay, well, thank you very much for your attendance today, taking time out of your work day to learn more about this program. you know, we endeavor to support you however we can with the funds that we have available. So really appreciate your interest, and hopefully we'll be able to work with you soon.
Thanks so much, everyone.